Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. It is a beautiful warm sunny day and I'm wearing waders for a walk in the river. Not so much this river, I wouldn't get all that far. It's deep and wide, which makes wading harder, and the waters are dark, carrying tannins from the peat moorland on the hills, and that makes it harder to look for things. Things I can reuse, recycle, muse upon, anything old and interesting that catches my eye. I've already searched most of the beach here before I got into my waders, disposed of a bag full of plastic, and this is the other stuff I've found. A steel toe cap of a workman's boot, a nicely twisted fork, the middle bit of a pocket knife, which could be 100 years old or older or younger. I don't really know enough about pocket knife styles to say. That rotor thing, which is brass, I'm not sure what it's from, a bundle of copper wire, and a little bit of steel wire. And of course the wood on which they're all presented. There's some blue plastic in the water just in front of me, I'll grab that, and then the small river that I'll be heading up flows out from under that railway bridge over there. I have filmed here before. My shortest mudlarking video to date was on the beach here, a little town centre mudlarking adventure, and in the river I'm heading towards I filmed the one called Post-Industrial River Walking. I'm aiming to fill in some of the gaps that I missed in that one, and the gap between the two, starting with a wade through the deeper water beneath this arch. And before that, hands up anyone who would like me to do a magnet fishing video here. Some brass. It's a connector for the segments of a chimney sweeping brush. Copper and brass I will always take. Magnet fishing though, I'd prefer not to take most iron and steel unless I find it interesting and small. But there's a charitable organisation on the other side of the railway arches that collects it for recycling, so I could donate to them whatever I find and don't want. A bottle stopper. For a very large chemical bottle. There was once a carpet manufacturing mill not far upstream. I found a few stoppers like this one and some cruder examples downstream of similar old mills. Between me now and the beach where I started the last video in this small river is water deeper than waist deep, which means I shall have to hold my rucksack above the water and I might need my other hand for stability, so camera off for a short while. That was actually a little bit deeper than I expected, chest waders that go up nearly as far as my armpits, and still I got some water inside. I don't mind, it'll be cooling on what is the hottest day of the year so far here. The sun is going to play very nicely in the water today, and I will try not to overwhelm the film with footage of it all. The sun itself will overwhelm the footage with light if I'm not careful. It is a full bright day, and it plays best where there's a little shade as well, like over here. I will have a look around and bring you back when I find something worthwhile to film. Another tool, and a surprising one really, a very narrow-headed hammer and a pick. A little bit like a rock hammer, but both the hammer and the pick are too long for that. Does anyone recognise this and can tell me its specific use? I think I'll take it. Might make a video one day of restoring it. And this thing is glass. That's surprising. Thought it was going to be plastic. A light spreading lens of, I don't know, vintage car brake light? Motorbike perhaps? I'll take this too. I like red glass lens things. This find is no surprise. I first encountered one like it in this very stream. Found a few actually that day. None of them quite as big as this, and I've since lost them all because I used them as fidget toys that I kept in my coat pockets. It's a metal polishing bead made of ceramic, would be one of many tumbled with whatever metal was being polished. Still very much in use today, and this one is probably quite modern. Now this is either a kick-up from a very large wine bottle or the tail end of a Hamilton bottle. I think it's the latter, and I like it. A nice tactile bit of century-old aqua-coloured glass. It's a lid of something. Ceramic, flat-bottomed, very heavily worn, leaving quite pleasing concentric rings of glaze. I don't think it's something I want to take, I've no use for it, but I still like it. First bit of blue and white of today, and the image is the tail end of a cow and the hand of a milkmaid in action. And I can see another one of those polishing beads. It's a small one this time. Wonder if I'll get a medium-sized one too today. They're ceramic. I'm not sure why they were being chucked in the river. To me they look exactly the same as new ones. Green. Think it's not native. Possibly arrived in the area as red bed aggregate. Wire. Looks like a charging cable. No, but something computer related. Lots of plastic, not much copper. 2 channels, rocky side first. Unlikely to have much of interest, seeing as the river rarely goes this way anymore. You never know though, so still got to check. Lots of rough chopped vegetables, leeks, carrots, a little bit of lettuce, gifts for the geese that rest and roost under this bridge. Nice to know that a kind local is looking out for them. Looks like a Nokia, a very cheap-end Nokia phone, commonly known as a drug dealer's special, and that's what I would guess this one was, disposed of as it is in the river. I used to have one just like it. Cheap as it was, it lasted me for more than 15 years. And that's this side of a bridge. I haven't been going long, so I've still got the energy to double back down the different channels. By the end of today I'll be stumbling tired and won't be so conscientious. I think I will, on another day, tackle some of the further upstream parts of this river. There's at least one old dump site and 2 villages that I won't get to today. Quiet now and see if we can see the baby pigeons. They're pretty good at hiding. I've only ever seen one of the babies poking its head out of the shadows. Nothing of interest to me, or anything else that I could talk about to create interest for you, so onwards. And I am already looking forward to the next bit of shade. I'm filming this on an unseasonably hot spring day, so there isn't anywhere near as much leafy tree shade as there would be here in summer. Still, where better to be on a hot day than in cool running water. Just a short piece of copper pipe, fuel for my forge. A bit of a metal patch. Wish I'd brought my pinpointer along today. There's almost certainly, possibly coins and treasure-like things hiding beneath the surface. A nozzle, which I don't claim to know for sure what it's from, but it does remind me of a vintage oil bottle spout. Some more brass. A collar from something. I find these quite often and presume they're from industry. Now, is that a full milk glass pot? No, but its presence here in the river, along with things like this worn vintage glass, is kind of bolstering the idea that perhaps the old dump site that I know is upstream might have been dug up a bit by bottle diggers. I'm not going there today. It is something I do plan to go and check on another day though. Don't think I can see anything else interesting, just some more wire. I honestly thought at the start of this lark that I wasn't going to find much wire. I took a lot of it out of here last time and didn't think there would be much left. The fact that I'm quite wrong on that suggests to me that maybe more wire is getting into the river, and that's a very strange idea. Almost everyone I know who works with electrical wire and plumbing things has a stash of wire, copper and brass things that they cache in at the scrapyard every so often. Even poor quality wire has some scrap value. After I saw this tunnel last time, I checked on maps, new and old, and there isn't supposed to be a tributary here, so I've got to assume that it's an outflow from the mill, and being as the mill was built in or around the year 1891, that's when the company was incorporated, got to assume it's an outflow from a steam engine system rather than an earlier water wheel. Would have had to have been quite an impressively large steam engine too to power the number of looms they had. It was originally a carpet weaving mill and dwarfs all but one of the other local mills in the area. I don't think it would still be passable. The intake upstream of the mill is long since filled in, and I would sadly guess, though I haven't been able to find out, that the engine itself was probably scrapped in decades past. And when I've found a suitable place to put my bags down, I'll be able to extricate some of this plastic. Not all of it, I don't think I'll be able to reach it all. Areas like this, walled in and quite far from access points, do tend to look messier, reassuring evidence that there are other people picking plastic out of the river. I'll take some of what's here, but there's too much. That blue tarpaulin there would fill one of my bags. That's mysterious, a weir after the mill. Actually I think it's a pipe, or even a tunnel coated in concrete. And yes, over there, if you can see it, a pipe going diagonally down the wall to meet up with this line. Sewer line is my guess, perhaps gas line too. Head torch on now, which isn't making much difference so far but will do before long. I recently went out mudlarking through some tunnels with only a regular walker's head torch, and oh my gosh, the difference that this one makes. It's the only kind of sponsorship deal that I've done on this channel so far. They didn't pay me and they encouraged me to do an honest review, and honestly, it's actually a bit better than my review. I could barely film at all in the tunnels with a regular head torch. So Olight, if you're watching, thank you, and by all means send me other torches to test. Now, is this a missing stone or something else? Pipes coming down from the roof of it, and a riveted closed pipe at the other end. Wonder how that was done. A dark and mysterious opening. Is it a secret room? The roof does have a hint of ancient Egyptian tomb about it. Dispelled immediately around the corner, expanding foam and a drinks can. And this, I think, is a flood overflow tunnel. It's got a lot of river sediment and gravels and driftwood. Hard to know if it's part of the original building or built later after some serious flooding caused problems. It's got a brick column which is different from the iron pillars in the main tunnel, but I don't know. Don't think I'm going to scramble up there, it gets shorter. I've already banged my head on the ceiling a bit, and I have other places to go and see with my limited energy, so back to the main channel. Drinks bottle, which I'll put in for recycling. That blue looks like nitrile. Yeah, part of a glove. Out of the river system and into the bin with it. Can't see anything else. Was really expecting to see some metal at the tail end of that. But no, nothing. Strangely no gravels on this bit. These pillars are unusual. I think they must be original to the mill design, though I'm not sure if they're original. Victorian cast iron was very strong under compression, brittle in other directions, and there's some quite large logs being swept down this river. Could possibly have shattered cast iron pillars when carried by powerful floodwaters. Sorry for the wobbles, it's cobbles underfoot, slippery with algae. Child's bike and a beach. Not expecting that there will be much to find on it, but I'm hopeful. If you see anything interesting, then please do shout out. Some sad and sickly looking plants sprouting over there. Life does often find a way, but in the limited light under here, those plants probably won't. Some blue and white, nice and vibrant. Feathery fronds, and I think it's probably from a willow pattern plate. Some more blue and white, and this one's older, a nicely worn piece of feather edge. Enamelled light fitting, the shelves from a fridge by the looks of it, and another tunnel. This is one I'd like to explore. Not really safe to do that sort of thing on my own though, and would want to be wearing my hard hat. There's a fairly high concentration of pottery and glass pieces directly below it, part of a cod bottle circa 1870s to 1940s. Nothing else particularly catching my eye. Wow, actually putting out some leaves. Maybe these are close enough to the light to have reasonable plant lives. Almost missed that little bundle of copper wire. Glazed stoneware, looks like a casserole pot circa 1930s to me. And a vulcanite bottle stopper, simple pattern, no branding, with a bit of a chunk taken out of it. But it might be the only vulcanite bottle stopper I find today, so I'll take it. Really is starting to look like there's a disturbed old dump site somewhere upstream. Might not be the one I know about, which has a sports ground sitting on top of it. Anyway, in the here and the now, the search for things of interest continues. A wheel or a roller, ceramic, almost certainly industrial usage. And that's unwelcome. Fishing line. I'll take it, dispose of it. Anything else? There, a nozzle, ceramic. What would that have been from? Any ideas? Makes me think large-scale bakery piping glaze onto a conveyor belt of buns. Almost certainly wrong. Of course, the Japanese knotweed looks healthy. Unlike this small field of I know not what. Getting greener though, they might have a relatively normal plant life. This is new. I think the workmen were doing preparatory work for this when I was last here. We chatted a bit and they seemed nice enough. It's a barrier to funnel water, which will create a low-pressure spot just behind it, and in future floods that'll be where some interesting things will settle. On this side it's an unsightly mess of plastics caught in old knotweed stalks. I think it's in plain view of the decking, which looks like it's a social space, so a little surprising that no one's taken it upon themselves to clean it up. It's a bit too big of a job for me today, but maybe another day if I feel up to it. First vintage glass bottle of the day. More or less intact, not one I would take if I was in an old dump site where the bottles are many and varied, but in the context of this river I feel like taking it, even if I don't feel all that much like keeping it when I get it home. Weird, I know. Lots more plastic. It's mildly distressing how much. I think that's because around the next corner, past a bit of a wade, there's a weir. And the last time I visited that place, it had a really nice feel about it. It was green and pleasant, made me want to revisit, and I think that positive feeling pushed out the memories of what a mess this short bit of a river was. That wall is more visible than it was, and it is quite magnificent engineering really. A very large platform on which sits another large mill complex, largely replaced now with more modern warehouse-like buildings. There is something in this stretch of water that I think will look better today than it did last time. It's an arrangement of huge wooden beams set amongst the cobbles, joined together all spiderweb-like with wrought iron banding. Something mill-related, but I've never seen the like elsewhere, a mystery I'm most keen to resolve. So I've shown, and if you know, then please do tell. And there is what I think was probably an overflow gate to allow water out of the mill pond that fed the steam engine, and there is a small construction company now where the mill pond once was. Here is yet more mysterious infrastructure crossing the river. It's a wide line of flagstones, easily wide enough to be a roof for a tunnel. Not closely joined enough to be watertight though. Doesn't look like it's meant to speed or slow the river or channel it into a pond. That's a nice find. A toy boat, not handmade, but it still put a smile on my face, and a lot of plastic, which I can't really stuff into my bag till I get back to the shore. So anyway, the flagstones. This arrangement is not something I've seen in other rivers as part of the infrastructure of old mills. Not that I've seen all the mill streams up close. And there is another large mill that made carpets in the next town over, and that is one I haven't river walked under yet. It's much harder to access that one, but I hope to one day. Perhaps these features that I find so mysterious here are actually quite common. So is there anyone watching who recognises them, or can you point me in the direction of answers? I'm always very happy to learn. Another outflow built by industrious Victorian engineers for a mill that's now long gone. The wild garlic does smell glorious today. Oh, not quite a whole marble, but still marbles are one of the few things that just make me smile when I find them. Some cobalt blue glass too, unusual to find it this thick and flat. Another crossing to another beach. The sun is high, bright and hot, burning away my energy fast, and I think it's more than my camera is comfortable with. It's not a beach I expect to find much on, didn't last time, so I won't film much, just when I find something, or when I'm moving on, under the bridge to the next beach, the beach after that, and then the next weir, which is where I stopped last time. Hopefully today I'll have fitness and energy enough to go a bit further. Do you see it? The prize, the mudlarking trophy. It's a small little thing, school sports day level of grandeur. Might have been silver-plated once upon a time, all gone now, leaving brass, which suits me fine. A coil of copper wire. Hands up everyone who'd prefer to see just the interesting finds. The mill that this bridge went to predated the year 1800, but this bridge does not. At least I very much doubt it. Looks to be early 1900s to me, with the 1980s or 90s widening, probably when the newer buildings were being put up. Same rules for this beach. I'll film interesting finds or moving on. A little kick-up from a nice greenish wine bottle, 18th, 19th century. I do quite like finding these. And now, onwards. Wire. Interestingly narrow, this spade. Is it for digging post holes or some other purpose? Beautiful rust. The weir ahead is a fine, strong-flowing weir, only about 1 metre high, but I am too tired by this point to trust my balance to walk along the top of it. It's something I do dearly love doing, but it takes focus, and I've stumbled a few times in the last quarter of an hour, so it would be stupid. So I shall cross the river, search that beach over there, and then walk the hillside past the weir and get back in when I can. Nothing approximating a path, but steep wooded hillside is my natural habitat, alongside small rivers and streams, of course. It's still very deep, and a 2-metre vertical drop down to it. Might not be able to get back down to the water until that bridge up ahead. Oh well, it takes much more effort to walk in the water, so this will be a rest. Oh, I hope that's not copper. I'll have to figure out how to take it if it is. It's not. I think it's telegraph pole support cable, steel and with no copper core as some of it that I found has. I might take a little bit of it for model making armatures. I've harvested as much as I want, which isn't much, and I know where it is if I want more. And now there is a tunnel. An unusually long tunnel, not necessarily related to the bridge. There's no trackway or proper pathway to it, never has been as far as I can tell. It's too low for a footpath, too narrow for a cart-hauled car, and too high above the river to be floodwater relief of a bridge, which is quite wide, but not quite as wide as this tunnel is long. Another mystery. I like mysteries. Nice brick-lined tunnel with a smooth flat floor. There's a slight bulge in the ceiling ahead which suggests it isn't entirely stable. Good thing we don't have many earthquakes, and the ones we do get are relatively small ones. That's a lot of bricks deliberately stacked. They don't seem to have come from the tunnel lining and doesn't look like a fire screen, so other option is draft limitation. So I think that it's likely I'm going to see evidence of homeless occupation near this end. Yes, relatively sheltered, dusty remains of bedding. The tire might have been used as a pillow. A saucepan and a fire. Looks like it was last lit less than a year ago. I hope that whosoever it was is in a better situation now. It's rarely anyone's choice to be homeless, and it can happen to anyone. If I hadn't had the support I've had in life, there were a few times when I'd have come close, and at least 3 friends that I know of have had at least one period of homelessness. Sorry, it is quite a sad topic. On a much lighter note, that's a surprise. A vintage milk glass pot, with an accretion of soil that makes it look like it's been at least partially buried. So is this hillside a hitherto unrecorded dump site worth digging? There's a few bits of glass, some rusty iron. Might just have been local households a century ago dumping their rubbish down a convenient hillside. I don't have a scraping tool with me today, but I'll bring something if and when I come here again. That's part of a cream pot. The dairy, St John's Lane, Halifax. Rich, thick cream. I'd guess this is from the late 1800s to early 1900s. Does somewhat bolster the idea that there might be good things to find here with the right tools. Back through the tunnel to wade the river, see the bridge from the underside, and of course find any treasures. It really doesn't look like the appropriate scale of engineering for what's on the other side, unless it's something else other than just an access bridge. Seems to be wide enough for 20, maybe even 30 cars parked side by side with comfortable spaces between. It's huge. And no obvious signs that it's been widened. This is not just a bridge. I've seen similar before, which had a children's play area up top, built on a dump site that was perched on an old mill aqueduct that straddled a small river. Nothing much of interest on this beach, but signs that all is not well with this structure. That is a very large crack. This is, I think, kind of an access panel to a pipe running just below the riverbed. Water main is my guess. Just the big metal plate with the X crossing it. The rest is river-carried things. Plastic, a wrought iron hoop, a concrete brick and a stone. and alongside an ornamental garden furniture piece, I think. Yep, leg of a garden bench. A messy business site. It is a skip hire company, and they have written at the bottom of their roadside sign, caring for the environment. Is it hypocritical of me to be critical and yet pick through the detritus for things I might want, like copper wire and a brass tap? I'm absolutely certain that the business has no interest in these things. They are dumped, and they'd be in the river the next time it floods. If I can reach it, I will grab that blue plastic too. I have been called hypocritical before in the comments for picking through bottle diggers' tailings that were sliding into the river and being critical at the lack of care displayed that was resulting in lead and other nasty things getting released into the river ecosystems. I don't think it's most bottle diggers by any means, and most bottle diggers do acknowledge that there are some people who give the hobby a bad reputation. Some companies too don't really factor the tidy up and prevention of environmental spillage into their plans, even if they use the promise of doing so in their advertisement. This looks much more likely as the access bridge into the site, and looking at Google Maps on my phone, that previous massive structure that straddles the river is not on Google Maps as anything. It's even hidden in the satellite views by trees, so I don't think that all that many people know it's there. I'm going to have to do some research if I want to figure out for sure why it exists. Some lead sheeting out of the river. A water gate from an old mill pond. Beautiful. And I'm sorry that this video will, I think, have descended now into a string of short clips. I'm filming it all, but I am stumbling tired. I've only travelled just over a mile up the stream, but I've crisscrossed and waded against the press and the power of the current for nigh on 4 hours in the hot, hot sun, all the while carrying an increasingly heavy selection of finds. I'm slow going, clumsy, surely missing things I'd like, and certainly not reaching for every piece of the plastic that I've never really wanted to carry. I'm really past done, but I do want to get to the next weir, which I can hear but can't quite see yet. Piece of Victorian water filter, another indication that there might be bottle diggings further upstream somewhere, and the brakes are still quite sharp, so it's perhaps not all that far. Sometimes I've just got to be sensible, so on dry land where the going is much easier. the start of a row of mill ponds, and as tired as I am, this fallen tree seems like quite an obstacle. I think I'm going to sit down for a while, have a snack and recuperate a bit. Feeling a bit more energetic now, so onwards. It's not far. The gap in footage there was not a stumble or a fall, it was a sad sight, a dead kestrel. It is a sadness, but still part of the fabric of what makes this a beautiful place. A roundup time. This lark was, for the most part, really quite enjoyable. I did push myself a bit far, got quite a bit more tired than was sensible, and got a little bit upset over how much plastic there was in that river system. On the plus side, the sunlight on the water was truly beautiful, and there were tunnels and trees and birdsong and weirs to walk across. I hardly saw any cement-bonded asbestos and very little lead, which is a big improvement on the previous time I was there, and I didn't get either sunburn or sunstroke or any other notable injury while being outdoors and active on the hottest day of the year. Footage-wise, I hope I did okay editing the 2.5 hours of footage I took down to an enjoyable video. Finds-wise, I wasn't expecting much, and I wasn't disappointed. I mean, I found a few nice things, a few mysteries, a few things that made me smile, a lot that didn't, and some things that will be useful in crafts. I found a few pieces of pottery which I liked in the moment of finding. A few of them do have potential for jewellery, not something that's currently high on my growing list of projects, so will probably be put in a box and left for years, and maybe one day used or given away. I do like the glass pieces I picked up. Not sure what, if anything, I'll do with them, but I do at least like them. Likewise, the 2 bottle stoppers, one large, one small, both a bit broken, happy to find both. I love finding marbles, even the broken, misshapen and melted ones. It will go into a large jar on another windowsill with all my other found marbles, and morning light will shine through. These polisher things, I've only ever found them in that one river, and I can't actually seem to find a metal polishing business on Google Maps upstream of where I found most of them, so I guess they've been there for years, left by a business that's gone. And my hands like them when my hands are stuck in my pockets when I'm out walking, which is usually between about November and March. This tool, I still haven't found out exactly what type of hammer it is. I'm curious, so if you know, please tell. And I think it might be fun for me to restore it, but I don't think it'll be ideal for a craft video, because it wouldn't suit a complex creative approach, just rust removal, some bluing so it doesn't rust again, and maybe a new handle. Good practice for other projects. The boat I want to release again. I've got another toy boat I've found, and I could release that at the same time, and maybe I'd like to make one myself and add that to the mix. The question, of course, is where to release them. Into the Strid would have the most drama. They would be sucked under and maybe never seen again. But is that disrespectful to their histories? The results would be similar, if not anywhere near as immediate, and not really filmable if I released them in one of my local, more genteel rivers. The little bottle, I think, is going to go into one of the ruined farmhouses near where I live, and if anyone finds it and likes it, it's free to take. For brass and for copper, a few of the bits and pieces will not go into the melt boxes, they'll go into the craft boxes. There's nothing especially special as an artefact that makes me feel like it should be preserved. I found a lot of copper wire, stripped a fair lot of it. There's more to strip when I feel like it, and some that I will never feel like attempting. That'll go into a sack to take to the scrapyard at the same time as I turn in all the lead I've removed from rivers. That's the finds, and now the thanks. A first and foremost big thank you to everyone who has watched and liked and commented on my videos. Every interaction helps. Unless it's spam, get a couple of those comments on every video now. A big thank you to the kind people who have donated through Ko-fi. Every such gift is very much appreciated. It's hard to express how much gratitude I feel. It's a lot. A big thank you to the kind person who, from my Amazon wishlist, bought this, a pack of 30 acrylic paint pens. It came without a personalised note, so I'm not sure who sent it, but thank you, whoever you are. And I've decided that my first use for them is colouring this. I do get a lot of requests to see some of my craft projects. I don't really count this as one, it's just a sketch model really for a much more complicated craft project I'm planning. I'm not entirely happy with it, so the final model won't look all that much like it. My girlfriend quite likes this and thinks it can be a standalone piece. She quite reasonably gets exasperated at the amount of effort I'll happily put into a sketch model, and then won't for ages and ages and ages get around to the making and filming the making of the final model. It's something I'm working on. A very different discipline than holding a camera as I walk and pointing it at things I find interesting. I had to relearn ISO and shutter speeds and frame rates and all sorts to get reasonable results in my crafting space. I'm also trying to steel myself to and figure out how to do a streaming show of craft working on Twitch. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, and if you'd like to, then any show of appreciation is very much appreciated. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, looking after yourself and loved ones as best you can. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.